Hello everybody and happy Wednesday. Today is November 11th, 2020. Today is Veterans Day. Shout out to all of the men and women that have served in our armed forces and given us the opportunity to have the freedom and the choices that we have in our country. I think a lot of people take that for granted these days. And definitely want to show our appreciation to all of you that have served and have family and friends that have served. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Today we are here on Facebook Live to talk about effective parent communication. I've done this presentation prior to the pandemic, but today we're going to be making a couple of adaptations to make it a little bit more applicable to having effective communication with parents in a post-pandemic world, what we hope to be a post-pandemic world very, very soon. Now today is Veterans Day, so we have a lot of people that are doing staff and service. I've been doing back-to-back Zooms, already this morning and throughout the day, so we definitely appreciate all of your support. Those of you that are joining us for the very first time, the way this works is that you're on Facebook Live. You have the opportunity to interact with me live. So if you've got any questions or comments, you can type that into the little chat bubble right there, and I can answer your questions or feed off of your comments as we go along. For those of you that might be watching the recorded video, because all of our Facebook Lives are recorded and then placed on our website, then you still have the opportunity to interact with the trainer in a timely manner by calling our training hotline or emailing me if you've got additional questions or need additional information about what we're talking about. So we're working really hard here at Tim the Trainer to make sure that you have a lot of opportunity for instructor-led training to satisfy the licensing requirements, since we can't go to a ballroom and do a large group training like we normally do. This is what we're doing to do that. Also, those of you that are new to our Facebook Live events, we will do our presentation on Facebook Live. Afterwards, there will be a link posted on Facebook for you to complete an online worksheet. After you complete the online worksheet, there is a $5 fee for a certificate of completion if you are needing a certificate of completion for your training file. Otherwise, you can just sit back and enjoy and participate in our presentation today, Effective Parent Communication. All right, so we believe in our organization that the connections and the relationships that we build with our parents is really the foundation for what we're all about. This is a partnership between the school, the teacher, and the parent in order to set the child up for success and to raise a healthy child with lots of skills needed to be able to deal with the world. But it is a partnership. And in order to have that partnership, we have to have effective communication with our families. Now, we've talked about this a lot over the last 8 months in several different webinars about how do we maintain that parent communication, how do we maintain those connections with the pandemic, with the emergency orders that parents are dropping off and picking up at the front door. They're not having the interaction that we typically have between the classroom teacher and the family. So we've really had to think outside of the box when it comes to communicating and connecting. And of course, we've talked in other webinars about using social media, closed group pages, so a closed group Facebook page where you can share videos of what's going on in the classroom, rituals and routines and projects that you're doing, circle times. That way parents can still stay involved and they really see what's happening in your classroom and even interact with the circle time with their child, later on in the day. We've had such incredible feedback on this, with parents that watch the videos at home with their child and actually participate in the project or the circle time or the song and dance. It's really created a wonderful new opportunity for us that we're really, really enjoying. But just also weekly messages from the classroom teacher that is recorded and placed on social media or emailed out to the parents, or those of you that are using apps like ProCare Connect or Kid Reports or Bright Wheels or all of these different platforms that you can send videos, just a message from the teacher, a very positive and optimistic and upbeat message full of gratitude, including what's going on in the classroom and the focus of the week. Those are all ways that we can maintain those connections and that communication. Now, I'm probably going to say this several times over the next hour, but the more you communicate, the less concerns you will have. All right? So effective communication is critical for the success of your school. In the absence of communication, negativity will fill the void. So when you don't communicate, all right, then your families will fill in the gap with negativity. They fill in the hole, all right? So, communication is key. And again, we've talked about this so much over the last 8 months with our enhanced health practices, the CDC guidelines, the Health and Human Services emergency orders, the governor's health protocols, all of these different mandates and recommendations that we're here to follow, making sure that you're communicating with your families that these are not decisions that we're making. These are mandates from regulatory agencies that we have to follow in order to stay open. I think that's important to communicate with parents. It's definitely made some of the difficult situations a lot easier. Those of you that have been in situations where you had to close your building or you had to close a classroom and you had to quarantine a group of toddlers, there's so many different scenarios that we've seen lately. Sharing the guidelines that we have to follow from these other agencies has been very, very helpful, all right? That parents understand that we're just doing whatever it takes for us to stay open and be available to them. So in the absence of communication, negativity fills the void. So communicate, communicate, communicate. But when we communicate with our families, all right, we don't just want to report problems. What I really want y'all to start practicing is that when you're communicating with your parents, you're communicating solutions, not problems, all right? We're not saying the child had a bad day, but we can say the child had a couple of rough moments during the day. The entire day wasn't bad, all right? Even as adults, we don't have bad days, we have bad moments, all right? But the child had some rough moments. But here are some possible solutions. Here is my plan to help your child, all right? And that's what I really want y'all to start practicing when you're communicating with your families, that we're going to communicate solutions, not problems, all right? Now, I say this in so many of my different workshops because it's so important, but connections on the outside build connections on the inside. So as we're wiring the brain, we're building that passion and purpose in our heart. The connections that we make with people on the outside wires everything on the inside. So the ability to connect and communicate is so important, all right? Many of you joined me yesterday when we did love languages. I had so much fun yesterday with the love language webinar, and I was so grateful for the number of people that participated. You can go back and you can watch it on my website if you missed it yesterday, either on my website or on Facebook. But understanding that everyone has a different love language, and then being able to connect and communicate with that person based on their love language is so effective. And even our families, you know, do a parent workshop on love languages. And the purpose is to discover each family member's love language. And that way, when I'm communicating with you, it's done in an effective way right there. All right. So there you go. I'm going to really quickly, because we only have an hour to go through this topic, but I wanted to kind of mention a few things that we do that prevent effective communication. All right. So here are some things that we do that prevent that good communication. The first one is negative body language. All right. Negative body language or not choosing the right attitude. Y'all know that when you're communicating with someone, only 7% of communication is the words that are coming out of your mouth. All right? The rest of it, the other 93% of communication, is body language and tone of voice. All right? Body language and tone of voice. And especially if we've got negative body language, we're leaning forward, we've got a bad facial expression, all right, we've got our arms crossed, all right, that is telling the parent that I'm uncomfortable with this situation and I'm uncomfortable with you, all right, and it's creating barriers, all right, your tone of voice. Talking too fast, talking too loud, all right, again, prevents us from having effective communication. So stop, take a deep breath, relax, all right, and really focus on your composure, especially when you're having to have a difficult conversation. But that negative body language and choosing the right attitude is important. Now, we feed a lot off of facial expressions, and our facial expressions really sends a lot of signals, all right? Whether you're attuned, you're focused, you're listening, or you're disconnected, you're not there, you could care less about this issue, and it's all on our face, all right? But of course, right now, half of our face is covered, all right? So we're starting to see a lot of situations that, you know, you're trying to have effective communication, but it's just not going well because the face is covered and both parties are not able to see the facial expressions, all right? And so we're having to work really hard at having that effective communication while having a mask on. So, you know, eye contact and body language is going to be important right there. The other thing that we do that prevents effective communication is, you know, having an I don't care attitude. You know, how many of you have ever been in a customer service situation where you've gone to a department store or you had to call the 1-800 number because you're having internet issues or cell phone or car insurance or whatever it may be. And that customer service rep, either at the department store or, you know, on the phone, it is obvious that they could care less about your problem. They don't care about you, and they definitely don't care about your problem. All right? I mean, how many of y'all have experienced that? And they don't have to say it. You can just tell that, they have an I don't care attitude. All right? That's going to prevent effective communication. And typically, it doesn't go too well. So, having that caring trademark and making sure your parents know that you care about their child, you care about their situation, that you have the ability to see the world from their point of view, that you can see their version of reality. That's important right there, okay? So you don't want to have that I don't care attitude. Now, a tool that I use that is very helpful here is a parent concern form. And if you go to my website, timthetrainer.com, and go to Documents, you can download a sample parent concern form. But it's a very simple document where anytime a parent comes to us with a concern, we write it down. All right, today's date, the parent's name, what is their concern, how are you going to address this issue? There's a spot for staff to make a comment. Parent signature, director signature, teacher signature. When you write it down, all right, the parents know you care. The other thing I love about the parent concern form is that it helps you with the follow-up. When we talk about effective communication, in my opinion, the most important part of effective communication is the follow-up. It's not the initial conversation. It's the follow-up that makes the difference, all right? So really practicing the technique that, when you have a conversation with a family member, that, within 24 hours, that's the golden rule. You follow up within 24 hours. The next day, hey, Mom, I just wanted to follow up on the conversation we had yesterday. Are there any additional questions that I can answer for you? Is there anything else you need from us? I just want to make sure we're good. All right? That follow-up is meaningful. And once again, the follow-up shows that you care. And I like the parent concern form because it's a visual reminder to do the follow-up. All right? Because I know we get busy, I know we get stressed, and we miss that part of it. The other thing that we do that prevents effective communication is not being there, not being present. And I'm not talking about being physically present, even though being physically present is important. But how many of you have ever tried to have an important conversation? To you, it was an important conversation with someone, and they're doing this. Oh yeah? Well, what are you saying? Oh, no. And they're more focused on the device than they are, you trying to share something with them. Hey, I'm trying to communicate something that for me is very important, but you're not there. You're on the phone, all right? We've all experienced that these days, and it's very, very frustrating. So when your parents are coming to you, you want to make sure that you're present and that you're focused on them and that you're not focused on a device or a computer screen or a piece of paper on a clipboard, all right? And I know that you've got 1,000 things going on, all right? But just giving that parent your attention right now will eliminate fires that you have to put out later, okay? Now, a lot of you are like me, and we go 1,000 miles an hour, all right? It's almost like we can't function unless we're moving at a very, fast speed. So being able to stop and focus is really hard for some of us, isn't it, right? For me, especially on the phone. So if someone calls me on the phone and they want to have a conversation about, something going on in the school or whatnot, it's hard for me because on the phone, it's really easy to start, working on that computer or doing something else on your desk. And I'm still listening, but I'm doing something else. You're not giving your full attention, all right? So closing that laptop, turning over that piece of paper, and listening to what's being said on the phone, all right? But that's hard, and we have to practice that. The first step is being aware that this is something difficult for you. Something else that we do that prevents effective communication is that when you are communicating, you're giving your school a bad name. Such as, your child has been so bad today. Your child has not followed direction all day long today. And even though you're making derogatory comments about the child, isn't it your job as the educator to lend the child the skills they need to replace the troublesome behavior? I mean, if a child is not following the rules or a child is not listening, that's an opportunity for us to teach, all right? But when you're communicating this with a parent, you're actually giving your school a bad name, all right? Because that's your job, is to deal with these situations, all right? Those are opportunities for you. Or, I've been telling that director that we need to get rid of this kid. I mean, he's bothering everybody. He's such a bully, but nope, she just won't do anything about it. When we make those type of comments, or, I've been telling the director our curriculum's outdated. We need to get it, but she's pinching pennies right now, and she just won't buy anything new. We need more supplies in this classroom too. Complaining about your school, is also giving your school a bad name. It's just not professional, but it's breaking down that effective communication right there. Again, we need to communicate solutions, not problems, all right? A lack of knowledge about what's going on in the classroom also can prevent effective communication. We all know one of the worst things you can say to a parent is, I don't know. When the parent comes in to pick up their child, oh, I noticed he's got a bruise on his arm. What happened? I don't know. I didn't get here till 2:30 today. You need to ask the morning teacher. All right? Parents don't want to hear that. All right? They want to know what happened to their child, but I don't know is going to break down that effective communication. But sometimes we don't know, even, the impulsive boys that we have in our classroom. Boys are very physically impulsive. They have a very high tolerance for pain. It's very normal for boys to have bumps and bruises that they don't even realize they have, because that's just how their brain and their body is wired. So, how did Johnny get that bruise on his arm? You know what? Let me look into that. And is it okay if I follow up with you tomorrow by 9 o'clock? All right. That right there is a lot better than I don't know. All right. Let me look into that situation, and I will follow up with you tomorrow by 9 o'clock. And give a specific time that you're going to follow up. All right. And then make sure you meet that commitment. But let me look into that. All right, instead of I don't know, because sometimes we don't know right there. The following up, I already told you, that is critical when it comes to effective communication. Now, not following up will break down the effective communication process, especially if you tell someone you're going to follow up and then you don't do it, all right? Now you're breaking trust, and that's affecting your integrity. All right. So, make sure that you've got a good practice in place that you are communicating. We've already talked about negative and loud voice tone. And I know for some of us, that's just who we are, I know that we're virtual right now. But, those of you that have been, present with me, I'm a loud person. My whole family is loud, you know. When I first started working in early education and after school programs, I thought I was going to get fired 3 or 4 times because my director would come into my room and she'd be like, Tim, stop yelling at the kids. And I'm like, I'm not yelling. We're actually having fun. We're learning. But, you know, I had to realize that I have a very loud voice that carries. And I have to be aware of that now. All right? Especially when I'm having a difficult conversation. You know, you have to practice taking a deep breath, slowing down, lowering your voice, and communicating slowly, all right? Because we also tend to want to talk really fast, especially during a difficult conversation, all right? Be conscious of that. I think that, you know, when it comes to effective communication, just having fun is important. It's an important part of our job, that we enjoy being an early educator, that we are proud to be an early educator. And not having fun is going to prohibit you from effectively communicating with your families. When you don't care about what you do, all right, that comes across in your communication. But, you know, so we had a couple of rough moments today. We also had a lot of fun moments, you know. So we're going to focus on that. But when you've had fun during the day and you're kind of up here on cloud 9, it's amazing how that conversation with that parent flows so much better and is so much more productive. All right? When, you know, you've been having fun all day, even though you've had some moments, we've had fun. All right? And, you know, and we talk about this in a lot of our workshops. We don't have bad days, we have bad moments. All right? Not everything was bad. Telling a parent, oh, we can't do that, or that's not our policy, that's also going to break down effective communication. You know, parents are just like children. We need to be telling them what they can do rather than what they can't do. All right? But, you know, also, why do we have this specific policy, and turning it into a benefit? All right? Let me tell you what you can do, and this is how it will benefit your family. All right? Giving them solutions rather than the problem. But, you know, practice avoiding, oh, that's not our policy. I actually witnessed this firsthand recently, a director telling a parent, oh, that's not our policy, you know, and I could immediately see the body language of the parent shift. As soon as that, you know, director said, oh, that's not our policy. You know, so the coachable moment here is, let's talk about how we could have told that parent what they can do. You know, what would be effective solution right here instead of those words, it's not our policy. Or here's the other one that breaks down communication, that's not my job. All right? You want me to help that 4-year-old child clean himself after he goes to the bathroom? You want me to help wipe? That's not my job. All right? Well, if it affects the health and safety of the children, it is your job, all right? But that's a conversation that a teacher needs to have with the director, not with the parent. And so, you know, saying that's not my job, you know, that's going to break down that trust and that respect right there, all right? And of course, the last thing I have on my list that prevents us from effectively communicating with parents is giving them the runaround. We've all been in situations where we've been given the runaround, where we were told to call this department, now call that department. Oh no, you're supposed to be going to this person. That's very, very frustrating. So make sure that your entire team knows that if you have a parent or an employee that has a specific issue, who is the appropriate person to go to for that particular issue. So we want to make sure that we have very well-defined roles, and that these well-defined roles are communicated, all right? So that when there is a question or a concern, you go to the appropriate person the first time, all right? But we definitely don't want to give them the runaround. We typically, what I see is people give parents the runaround to try to avoid the confrontation. That's what's happening. Maybe if I send them to the director, then I don't have to deal with the confrontation. And then if the director sends them to the district manager, now I don't have to deal with the confrontation. It's avoiding the confrontation is what's happening, but it's giving the parent the runaround, which is extremely frustrating for them. All right. One of your worksheet questions is going to be list out a couple of these things that we do that prevent effective communication, the ones that really spoke out to you, and you can list something different right there as well. So this is a quote from a book called Creating Magic, and it's written by the former CEO of Disney, and they talk in this book about what makes Disney magical. Is it the amusement parks, the attractions, the hotels? What is it about Disney that makes it so magical? Well, it's the people, all right? The people is what makes it magical. And there's like 125,000 employees before the pandemic at Disney. And so how in the world do they put processes and policies in place that, over 125,000 employees can transfer that belief and create magical experiences for every customer that comes into their parks, But Disney's done it. They've got great processes in place right there. So one of my favorite quotes from this book is, people will not remember the service that you provide or the product that you sold. What people will remember is how you made them feel. And I think that is so applicable to our industry, all right? It's not about the service that you're providing. And years down the road, all right, the care and the education that you provide for that child, that's important. And there's going to be some gratitude for that. But that's not what the family is going to remember. What the family is going to remember is how you made them feel, all right? Did they feel part of your school family? Did they feel connected to you and your school family? That's what we've got to focus on right there, is creating meaningful and effective connections, all right, that they will remember for a lifetime. And that's our goal. Now, with the pandemic going on and the emergency orders that parents are dropping off and picking up at the front door, we have to be very creative with this. When you're standing at the front door and you have runners running the kids to and from the classrooms, and you've got a line of parents standing 6 feet apart waiting to pick up their child, how can I have this meaningful experience that creates that feeling that they're going to remember when we're in an assembly line right now? That's what drop off and pickup has become. It's an assembly line, all right? So we need to be very conscious of that. And whoever it is, the director, assistant director, I like to rotate teachers in this position, but whoever is doing that front door duty, and you're either accepting the children or releasing the children, having that positive experience is going to be very important, all right? And then also using social media to fill in the gap right there. And also remember, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And you can deliver some of the most difficult information, but if you do it in a meaningful and effective way that is genuine, you can get through anything. All right, you can get through anything. So I'm going to share with you now just some tips for having effective parent communication in your program. Now, the very first thing that I have listed right here is that you must have a passion for being an early educator. You need to believe in what you do. And y'all know that I've said this 1,000 times. This is not a job, this is a purpose. And when you have that in your heart and soul, that this is a purpose, all right? I am proud to be an early educator. That makes a difference in your communication. And you have to make sure you let your parents know this. You can't just assume that they know you're a proud early educator. You got to tell them, all right? You know what, Mom? Have I ever told you how much I love being a pre-K teacher and how awesome it is to have your child in my classroom this year? You know, it's just fantastic. Simple things like that make the biggest difference in the world. But you got to make sure you tell people that you love what you do, all right? You can't just assume they know it. And this is not a one-time deal, all right? It's not during parent orientation when you go, oh, by the way, I love what I do. I'm a proud early educator. Now let's get to the curriculum, all right? No, it's ongoing. You know, I love being a pre-K teacher, and I'm so happy to have your child in my classroom. Let them know right there. And of course, become an advocate. Become an advocate for the whole family, not just the child, but the whole family. Stand up for what you believe in, all right? You know, we've done that a lot this year. This has been a very busy year for advocates. You know, protecting our programs and being treated equally and getting what we've deserved. And it's amazing the milestones that we have reached this year in the early education industry due to the pandemic. I mean, you know, one good thing that has come from this pandemic is that our true colors have been shown. And people are finally recognizing the importance of early education and that high quality childcare is the backbone of the economy, all right? But we got to stand up for that, and that's important right there. But that plays a big part in your communication with your families, because when you're passionate, when you believe in what you're doing, that comes through in your conversations. Now, we also need to be personable, all right? So when we're communicating with our families, we need to be approachable. You know, we need to have that personality that people want to be around. I always think about, y'all remember that movie Monsters Incorporated? You know, I love that movie, one of the classics out there. But remember the ogre lady that they had to turn their paperwork into, and she talked with the low, scratchy voice, and you know, was kind of ugly and mean, and they were all afraid to approach her. Well, we don't want to be that ogre lady, all right? We need to be personable, all right? That energy that's flowing off of us, that people want to be around us. And you've got to do your best every day to be friendly, even when you don't feel like it. But it's got to be genuine, all right? And you've got to be mentally and physically present to be able to do this. Now, 10 years ago, we used to say, fake it till you make it, all right? Some of you have probably heard that before. Fake it till you make it. Well, now we know that's a big old pile of BS, all right? that when you're faking it, people can tell. All right, and I'm sure a lot of you have been in situations where you've gone to a customer service counter and it's very obvious that that person is fake, fake, fake. All right, so it's got to be genuine. It's got to be real. Now, the reason why I started this conversation with being a proud early educator and being passionate about what we do is that when that passion is in your heart, you don't have to fake it. All right? You don't have to fake it. And I want y'all to make it a goal. Every day when those parents are dropping off and when they're picking up their children, make their day. All right? Your encouragement, your compliment, your optimism, your positive attitude, your positive energy can make their day. And I want you to put yourselves in the parent's shoes. We don't know what type of environment they're going to after they drop their child off. We don't know what their working environment is like. It could be a hostile, negative, high-pressured environment. And when they're coming to pick up their children in the afternoon, we have no idea everything they've been through today. How many moments, bad moments, negative moments they've had throughout the day. And your interaction in the afternoon could be the icing on the cake. All right? But it could be the positive attitude and the optimism and the gratitude that they need at that moment, all right? That sigh of relief that they need. So make it a goal, make their day, whenever you see them. That should always be a goal right there. And remember, a smile is the universal language of friendship. So smiles mean a lot. Going on with the positive, attitude right there, you get to choose your attitude. And we've been talking about this a lot, over the last 8 months, that we have so much adversity going on. We have so many challenges and obstacles that are out there. With the pandemic, with the racial injustice, with the equality issues, with politics, and now the election, and now it's the holiday season, and our holiday season is not going to look like what we're used to, and family rituals that have been done for generations, are not going to be done the same way this year. So there's a lot of hardship. There's a lot of struggles out there. You get to choose your attitude. All right? You get to choose to accept the moment for what it is and, reflect on the past and influence the future. Or you can choose to be ugly and negative and dwell and have a pity party. All right, but that's not going to be helpful to anyone. And of course, the biggest thing that we need to be reflecting on right now is that it's okay to have a difference of opinion. And just because your opinion is different than mine doesn't make you my enemy. That it's okay for us to believe in different things. It's okay for us to have different opinions, all right? And we can still be friends, all right? But we live in such a divided world right now where you either believe in the same thing as me or you're my enemy. And we really need to reflect on that it's okay, all right? And in fact, if y'all want to go back to high school government class, this country was founded on a difference of opinion. That is the reason why we have parties, is so that you have a difference of opinion. Now, the way it's supposed to work is that you have 2 different opinions or 3 different opinions, and then you come together and you compromise, and you come up with a compromise that is in the best interest of all individuals. That's the way it's supposed to work. But it's okay, you know? And the world is not going a lot of people's way right now, especially the past week and a half. But that doesn't make you my enemy, all right? Now, you're the only person that can make this choice, all right? I can motivate you, I can encourage you, but you have to make the choice to have a positive and optimistic attitude. It's the power of positive intent. The power of positive intent is what we're practicing right here. But stay positive about that parent, about that child, about that coworker, and always look for the best in every situation, all right? And when you're communicating with a family member, what can we all learn from this situation? And how can we make it better? And like I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on solutions and not problems, all right? Compliment that parent, all right? Compliment them on their parenting skills. You know what, Mom? I have noticed that, you work a full-time job, plus you take Susie to her soccer practice and her dance practice, and every Saturday you're at that soccer game cheering her on. You are doing an awesome job as a parent, Mom. I just thought I would share that with you. Compliment that parent when compliments are due. And I really want y'all to think about this. If you don't compliment that parent on their parenting skills, who will? Probably no one. And we all need that encouragement, all right? We all need the compliments, on the job that we're doing. It's tough right now. And you need to be able to recognize that a lot of our parents are doing the best they can with what they've got. And even though that might not be meeting your expectations, we need to look at that as an opportunity to share skills. I'm going to lend this parent some skills, all right? Because I know they're doing the best they can with what they've got, all right? But those compliments are going to go a long way. Compliment, the children. We do that. Describe, notice, acknowledge. Your coworkers, all right? Teachers that are watching this right now. When you notice a coworker doing something helpful, all right? Compliment them on that. Notice that, all right? You stepped into the classroom so that the 3-year-old teacher could take a potty break. That was so helpful and nice, all right? That we all need that encouragement and that affirmation right now. Work hard at being an encourager, all right? And like I said at the beginning, the more we communicate, the less concerns we'll have, all right? Being an encourager, all right, is communicating. Now, also going along with, effective communication, professionalism is imperative, all right? And the main thing I like to talk about with professionalism is documentation. Now, y'all know the golden rule with documentation. If it's not written down, it didn't happen. And those of you that want more information on this, I do have a recorded webinar on my website, timthetrainer.com. Go to online trainings, scroll down, they're all in alphabetical order. But I did a Tim at 10 earlier this year on documentation tips. I definitely recommend you go back and watch that video on documentation tips. But when you are communicating with families, document, document, document. And I recommend formalized documentation. So if you have a form or a document with your school logo on it that is formalized, that you can write down the parent's concern or question, all right, and to make sure you get signatures and dates, that's best. Now, directors and leaders that are watching this webinar, anytime you are presented with documentation from a teacher, so an accident report, an incident report, always make sure that you're reviewing it and looking into it before you sign it. Don't blindly sign that accident report. If a teacher gives you an accident report and it says Tanika fell down on the playground and bumped her forehead, you need to go back there to that classroom or go out onto the playground and look at Tanika's forehead, all right, before you sign that document. I can't stress that enough, all right? Don't blindly sign stuff. You're putting your signature on that, and if it's not accurate, you just took on that responsibility. Check for grammar, all right? It's mind-blowing to me how we have lost proper grammar these days, that, you write out an accident report and it looks like a text message to a friend. There's no capital letters, there's no punctuation, it's just one giant run-on sentence. We need to practice proper grammar right there. That's important. Always ask yourself, this decision I'm about to make, or this document that I'm creating for my program, how would it be perceived by a jury? All right? That's what you've always got to ask yourself. And then when you are doing an accident report, an incident report, an illness report, whatever documentation you're preparing, I like to provide additional resources for the family as well, all right? So let's say, for example, it's an illness report. The child is being excluded from your program due to signs and symptoms of an illness. Well, not only am I going to fill out the illness report, but I like at the bottom, per the child care minimum standards, and then 746, whatever, quote the standard, a child is excluded for the following symptoms. And then per our parent handbook policy, blah, blah, all right? That's at the bottom of that illness report that is supporting the documentation that you're creating, all right? That way it's not just you randomly making this decision that that child is excluded, it's being backed up, all right? Or if it's an incident report, the child is having a behavior that we need to lend a new skill, all right? We need to lend a new skill to replace the troublesome behavior. Include in that documentation, here's a website that might be helpful for you, with this particular situation. Or here is a link to a video that might be helpful, all right? But provide additional resources with this documentation. That is going to enhance your communication with the parents, and it's going to make it effective, all right? You're probably going to have less pushback from the parent, definitely less questions when you can provide additional resources to support whatever it is that you're documenting right there. All right? Make sure that you're connecting with people. And I like to follow what's called the 10 feet rule. All right? That anytime you come within 10 feet of someone, you acknowledge them, ask them a question, and wish them a fond farewell. So you come within 10 feet of someone, hey, how's it going? How's your day? All right, have a great day. Can't wait to see you tomorrow or whatever, or good seeing you. But, anytime you come within 10 feet of someone, make that eye contact, acknowledge them, express an interest in them. All right, how are you? And then wish them a fond farewell. All right, this makes a big difference right here. This makes a really, really big difference. and when you practice it, it just becomes second language for you, all right? But I mean, how many of y'all have walked past someone, especially someone you know, and they say nothing to you? No acknowledgement, no eye contact. And how does that make you feel? You know, it makes you feel not wanted, all right? Or not important, all right? So it's the 10-foot rule, all right? The 10-foot rule. So anytime you come within 10 feet of someone, acknowledge them, ask a question, wish a fond farewell. So I've got to tell you all this little story. We're going to go over an hour today, by the way. Just make yourself available because I still have a couple of things to talk about. But I got to tell you all this really cool story that I'm very, very proud of. And I might embarrass somebody, but you know, my son growing up had a lot of learning difficulties and was in inclusion classrooms, and you know, we art after art after art, and had a lot of challenges. He had a really, really rough childhood with a lot of missing skills. And you know, one of the things that he really struggled with was social anxiety, and he had a very, very difficult time with social skills and emotional skills and connecting with people. It was a big struggle for him. He had a lot of hearing issues and speech issues as a young child, and it just snowballed on him. Well, you know, I started practicing the 10-foot rule with him, you know, way back in elementary school, that, you know, if we're at the grocery store, we're walking through the mall, anytime you come within 10 feet of someone, look them in the eye and acknowledge them. Hello, you know, ask a question, wish a fond farewell. And it was about when he was in middle school. You know, we were walking through the mall one day, and of course, you know, middle school boy, you know, we walked past someone who's like, hey, how's it going? You know, have a good day. And then he like nudges me and he's like, Dad, I did it. I did the 10-foot rule, you know? And I just kind of giggled and you know, yeah, you did it. Awesome. And so it kind of became a little game that we played that, you know, you acknowledged people whenever they came into your presence. Now, fast forward, you know, he's 24 years old now. And, you know, any of y'all that have met him, you know, at different events with me or something, he is one of the most approachable, likable, friendliest, social people you've ever met. And when you walk into a room with him, he's the type of person that you just want to be his friend. You know, he gives off that energy, and has a wonderful sense of humor and is very charming and funny. And to see him now to where he was, you know, in elementary school and middle school, wow, what a difference. And you know what? I've got to contribute it to the 10-foot rule. You know, that's what makes the difference right there. Kind of moving on, you know, when we talk about enhancing your parent communication, you know, extend this, go a step further. Parent workshops that you can provide, you know, to your families to give out more information. Family workshops where it's not just the parents, but the parents and the children, and you practice rituals and routines and games that you do in your program with the parent and the child, and then they have the opportunity to take that home. So some of the routines that we do in the classroom and how that can be beneficial at home. Make and takes that you can do with families on a Saturday to really extend those parent connections right there. Routine books. We do a lot of visuals in our classroom. We follow what we call mapping. Model, add visuals, and practice. So we create a lot of routine books in our classrooms to help the children with expectations. But make routine books for parents too. So for example, we made a brand new routine book this year for drop-off procedures, because when the parent's dropping off their child, it's very different this year than how it's been in the past, you know. I'm sticking a thermometer at your forehead, and I'm screening you for symptoms, and then the parent's leaving you at the door and someone else is walking the child to the classroom. That's very different. So, you know, we created a routine book with really nice pictures of what the new drop-off procedures look like. And then we try to send this to families before they start. So as soon as they enroll or we know they're coming back, whether by email or social media, you know, but we can create those routine books for drop-off procedures, pickup procedures, routine books for getting your child ready for bed at night, you know, getting your child ready for dinner. Lots of our skills and structures that we have in our classrooms that can be beneficial at home as well. All right? Always be the first to speak. When you have a situation with a family, you know that there has been an incident. You know that the child has had some rough moments throughout the day. You should always be the first to speak. Don't wait for that parent to come to you. I apologize. The lawn people just showed up, of course, right at the end of my webinar. But a lot of times, you know, we sit there and think, well, if the parent doesn't notice, I don't have to deal with the issue. They're noticing. Trust me, that parent is noticing. All right? So always be the first to speak. We do something in our organization where at 9 o'clock every morning, any child that we are expecting to be in attendance that has not shown up for the day, we call, all right? To check up on the child, make sure that everything is okay, because we need to know that. If they're not feeling well or they're sick, I need to know that because they were in my care yesterday. Right now with the pandemic, that's even more important, that if you have a child out due to an illness, hey, we need to know about this, all right? But I had a situation one time where we did our 9 o'clock phone calls. I called this dad and said, hey, just calling to check in. Y'all are not in attendance today. Is everything okay? And dad responds and says, well, when I was picking up my child yesterday, there was an incident and I really am unhappy with the way it was handled and we're probably not coming back. And I was like, whoa, totally blindsided. I had no idea. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? You know, what incident? What wasn't handled well? Give me some more information. So, you know, the dad said, oh yeah, you know, when I picked up, the teacher came to me and told me that, you know, something happened and this is what she said and how she handled it, and it was not appropriate and we're probably not coming back. So I was able to say, you know what, hey, give me the opportunity to look into this situation, address it, and can I please follow up with you, you know, this afternoon? And, you know, he's like, fine, whatever. Well, it was because of that 9 o'clock phone call, you know, we probably would have lost that family and never even known that there was an incident if it wasn't for me being proactive. And we were able to handle the situation, address it, and maintain that enrollment. And not only that, but, you know, down the road, you know, I heard from this family how impressed they were with our follow-up, with us being proactive and following up, you know, and how the situation was handled. And the last thing, you know, that I want to talk about here with effective parent communication is be prepared to handle problems. Now, the ultimate goal is that you have a wonderful, high-quality program, everyone is happy and connected, and you are issue-free. Well, that's ha, 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 right? You're going to have incidents. You're going to have situations. Role play, practice, how you're going to handle these situations. Respect confidentiality, all right? When you're having a difficult conversation with a parent, do it in private, all right? Sometimes when parents have concerns, they want an audience. So practicing this and being proactive that I'm going to address this in a private manner is going to prevent that opportunity for them to have an audience, all right? Use the sandwich method. Say something positive, address the issue, end with something positive. And pick your battles wisely. I can't stress that one enough either. Sometimes we make the biggest deal out of the littlest things. And then think before you speak. And know this is not happening to you, this is happening in front of me. Last thing I promise, and again I apologize for the background noise, always present the day's happenings, all right? Parents need to know what's going on in the classroom so that they can have open-ended conversations with their children. We always like to give parents at least 3 open-ended questions that they can ask their child. So how do you say dog in Spanish? How many legs does a caterpillar have? But give those open-ended questions instead of the parent just asking what you do today. Because remember, the more we communicate, the less concern there are. All right? So there you go. I hope this was helpful. Again, I apologize for the background noise. Of course, the lawn crew shows up right as we're trying to finish our webinar. Your online worksheet is posted on Facebook. It should already be there. So when you go to my Facebook wall, you may need to refresh it, but you'll see that. And then I will also post the links to do your online worksheet in the comment section right here. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Veterans Day. Once again, all of you out there that have served our country, thank you so much for what you do. And have a very safe and healthy rest of your week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.